Hello again, friends, and welcome to another segment here on Doc G's Wine and Spirits Review. First of all, I'd like to say happy daylight savings time, and I have assembled here for you today a little shopping trip, because as you might imagine, Doc G spends a little bit of time going in and out of different wine shops and browsing for wines on the internet, etc. And there's a lot you can learn from a shopping trip at your local wine and spirit shop. But before we get to that, let me get started here by toasting daylight savings time. I can't believe this is the day that just goes so fast. And we're going to slow it down just a little bit here as I pour myself a nice cava and say cheers. Welcome to one more hour of light every day. So, you see quite a few bottles here on the table, and what I'd like to share with you today is what you can learn from a bottle of wine that you see, because I don't think most of you are like me. I've got a couple hundred bottles here in my quote wine cellar. But I know the average wine drinker probably doesn't store any. You might go into the supermarket, you might go into your wine and spirit shop, and you pick up a bottle, ones that you've learned along the way, and things that you like. But if you want to get more adventurous and more exploratory, you can actually learn a lot from the bottle of wine that you're selecting, and it may help make you a better wine consumer in the long run, which is always my goal, to try to make your wine experience, all of it, from the purchase, taking it home, to consuming it, and then maybe even talking about it and sharing it with your friends. So to do that, I have assembled a selection of bottles with no particular rhyme or reason, other than each one of these bottles will demonstrate what I'm trying to share with you here today and give you a little bit of working knowledge when you're in the grocery store, in the wine and spirit shop, or even if you're at a friend's house looking through their wine collection or wondering what they might be serving. So let's first of all talk about what you can learn from the bottle. And I'm talking about the bottle itself. Bottle types are generally in wine. First of all, you have your bubbly type bottle, which is generally heavier because some secondary fermentation or fermentation goes on in this bottle. And it needs to be very strong because the fermentation process creates pressure, and it literally would break the glass if it were not heavier. So that's why your champagne bottle is clear. The fact that they are either clear or green or a brown bottle, they say that the light filtration also can destroy the wine. Sometimes that is lore, sometimes that is actually scientifically proven that light can be a detriment to the wine. Not in one day, we're talking about over time. So the different types of bottles basically, and if you look across this table, I don't have them in order, but there are two types. This type, which is generally referred to as a Burgundy style bottle, and this type, it's a Chianti and a Bordeaux, they're called Bordeaux style bottles. Basically, they're taller, the neck is shorter. Here you have the bottle where the shoulders, quote, slope a little bit. When you look at a bottle, every one of these bottles here has something in it called a punt. It's not football. It's an indentation that helps them molding the glass. And then this part of the bottle is called the heel. Basically, that's to help stabilize the wine as it's standing on a table or on the shelf in the store, depending on how that store might store it. Then you can also look at your bottle, and I was able to do it. Your champagne style or your sparkling style will generally have this wire holder to keep this cork from exploding off. There's a cellophane wrapped on it. Then your other traditional bottles, like you see here, generally have a label or a seal on top of the cork. Every one of these is a cork, except for one. This one is a Stelvin cap. It's basically the twist off, but the technical name for that is the Stelvin cap. They're all supposed to be airtight, but honestly, if you're going to keep your wine over time, you will get a little bit of leakage, but very, very, very little, allowing you to sell your wine if you should choose to do that. So those are the different types of bottles. So we talked about the punt in the bottom of the bottle. You'll sometimes see that punt in an aerator where you pour your wine. It's supposed to spread the wine out more. Who knows? The other thing that will help us learn a lot about our wine beyond the bottle, because let's face it, the bottle is only the beginning. What's important is what's on the label. So what I'd like to do for you, and I want to run through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different bottles to try to bring this information to you, just as though we were in the store together reading the bottle of wine. So before we do that, I need to hydrate. So let's start with this one. So if you were to walk in to the, I bought this one at Total Wine. This is called Dubon Cava Brut Selection. So that's a lot of words. So what are the terms that you want to look for on a bottle? So on a bottle, you're going to find either the appellation, which means the area where it's grown, or the type of the grape. You're going to find the producer, the region, the variety of the grape or the appellation, which I just said, whether it's vintage or non-vintage, and it's ABV, it's alcohol by volume, which you've heard me reference many times in these wine chats. So let's put that to the test with our first one. So you look at this, you pick it up and you say, oh, Dubon Cava. Well, as of now, you don't know what it is. You know it's Cava. Well, Cava is a style of sparkling. So these are things, and I'm not here to try to memorize this. It's just important that when you look at it, if you do increase your knowledge from now on when you walk in and you find a Cava, which you will see, Freixenet, Dubon, there's literally hundreds of Cavas. One thing, they all come from Spain. So that's the first thing that you can deduce. So you'll be picking this up and you'll go, oh, well, this is a Spanish wine. And it will tell you at the bottom, it says it's a product of Spain from Barcelona. So you can see that on the label. We talked about the region. So on the back, it tells you who the producer is. And this one is Bodegas Pinord. And that's about all the other information you're going to find in this bottle. And it also says, as we said, the ABV, the 11.5. So it's dry. It's just a tad, got a little tad residual sugar. Tells you how much it is, 750 mLs. And it also tells you, in this case, you can assume, since, especially with sparklings, you'll look at the bottle and it won't have a year on it. So that means it's non-vintage. So what does non-vintage mean when you're dealing with sparklings? It means it could be a mix of different blends of grapes from different years to help alter the taste. So that's what you'll find out. The price might be on the bottle depending on the shop you're in. You're probably going to see the price labeled on a shelf somewhere. So that, and the brut, the word brut on a bottle here means that it's got low residual sugar, it's not sweet, and it is certainly sparkling. And that's all this bottle tells you. And then you got your necessary government warnings that this could be bad for your health. We all know that. So again, cheers. This, by the way, if you ever get to Total Wine, is an excellent cava. So now let's pretend we're in another aisle and we pick up this bottle here. We look at it and it says on it, Vouvray. It has a lot of other words, Vendage Manuel, Vigneau Chevreau, Mise en Bouteille à la Propriété, a lot of French. So it does help if you speak a little French, but if you really wanted this bottle of wine, you're probably going to walk away with it because you're going to say, I don't know what the hell's in that bottle. So if you increase your knowledge, you would know, because a Vouvray is a region in France, and a Vouvray means that the grape in here is a Chenin Blanc. Now, you might get lucky enough to have that occur on the back of the bottle. And in this case, it does tell you it's 100% Chenin Blanc. But if you looked at it quick and didn't bother turning over the bottle, you would not know, because all it says is white Loire wine, because Vouvray Chenin Blanc, made in France, comes from the Loire River Valley. So it also tells you on here the year, 2022. So this is a vintage. So what does that vintage year mean? So the vintage year means, if you guess, I'm going to give you two possibilities. It could mean the year it was put in the bottle or the year the grapes were harvested. 3, 2, 1. The year the grape was harvested. So the wine in this bottle was picked in 2022 and then it was put in the bottle. Okay, so these are grapes grown in the year 2022. So they have now begun their aging process. So what is the rule of thumb there? Most wines, and I'll tell you with white wines, you probably want to not, if you're not a wine cellarer, if you don't cellar wines at all, it doesn't matter. You're going to go to the shop, buy your wine, bring it home, serve it at your party, drink it yourself. It's probably not going to last a month. No wine is going to overage in a month. I have quite a few wines that I have going back. I have actually one bottle of Barolo here, which is from 2000. And if you read the charts, it's still viable. It changes. Wines will change in the bottle. Remember, it's a living organism, so to speak, and it will age. And as it ages, it changes in complexity, in levels of acidity, levels of tannins. All of those things change over time. So the year is important to you if it's important. If it's not, crack it open and have at it. It's just important to know that if you see somebody that happens to have Chardonnay from 2002, it's probably going to be weak. But most wines, again, when you see it, bring it home, drink it. Unless you're going to start cellaring wine, then that's a whole nother topic. But the year does matter as well if you follow what happens in a certain region. Like in the Willamette Valley in Oregon, they might say, well, 2020 was not a good year because we got late rain, and the late rain made the grapes weaker, which can happen. So what they'll do is they'll have to doctor that wine up a little bit, but they might not consider it their best vintages ever. Other years you'll hear them say, oh, 2018 was a fantastic year in the south of France for Syrah. So you got to really get into the weeds to know that. Trust me, if the wine's on the shelf and you're not buying really cheap swill, it's probably going to be very drinkable and a very good wine. You're probably not going to notice the subtle differences, whether they had rain in October in the south of France or if it's too hot in Southern California in the year 2019. That's really getting into the weeds. That's for geeks like me. But for the average wine drinker, you want to just make sure that you get a wine fairly young and you don't want it to sit around too long and have at it. I would tell you to store it properly if you do want to keep some. Keep it in a cooler place. Wine should not be stored for a long term, in a hot garage. You can actually put it in your fridge. Chilling it doesn't hurt it, but then if you bring it out, you got to let it warm up a little bit. But in a cool, dark place in your house, wherever you have that place, in a cabinet, that's going to be fine. Not over your stove, but you do want to be attentive to where you store it. So that's that wine. It tells you on the back here, 100% Chenin Blanc. And many times I'm reading all these bottles, it tells you who the importer is if they're coming from overseas. So let's go to our next bottle. This is a bottle of Legend de Bonpas. It's actually got some etching in the glass. And this is another wine. It's called Luberon. And you look anywhere on the bottle, nowhere. I'm not going to read for you. There's no grape listed on this. So if you go into the wine shop, you're not going to know what you're drinking unless you know what grapes are predominant in the southern Rhone region, which is where this is. Luberon is an AOC, a region in the south of France. So you'll find that all out by reading this bottle. But what you need to know is that this bottle probably has a little bit of Viognier in it because that's a prominent grape. It's a blend. It's for sure a blend. There's Viognier, probably some Roussanne, some Marsanne, some Claret, some grapes that are grown in the southern part of Rhone and put into these white Rhone blends. That's really what this is. Other times you'll see little stories on the bottles. It says, since 1318, Fortified Bonpas has overlooked the safe river crossing along the road from Rome to Avignon. And there's a story on the bottle, and winemakers will frequently do that. So you can learn a lot from that bottle. So let's move on to the next one. This one is in your typical Bordeaux shape. I tried to go around the world here. This one is from Spain. And if you look closely on there, this is a Val Serrano is the maker. It's Rioja Alavesa, which is a region in Spain. So far, looking at the front of the bottle, you have no idea again what you're looking at. Don't be scared by that. If you just get a little bit of knowledge, like I said, you might not like it, but it's going to be well made. So this one is 2022, and it tells you on the back. They help you. It says made with the grape called Viura. So you know that a Rioja is a region, but the grape that they grow there and put in these Spanish whites is called Rioja wine. It's a white Rioja. Tells you again here consistently 13.5 ABV, and the bottle again has a little minor indentation on it. So that's another one, and this goes for reds and whites. Then the next bottle we're going to pick up here, and I'll tell you what, we could do a whole segment just on this bottle, but this is a true Bordeaux. And I did a segment a while ago on Bordeaux's, but it says Reserve 2018. You're going to see that on the bottle, it says Reserva, Reserve. That's just winemaker talk. It generally is not going to affect the quality of the wine substantially. So this is a 2018. It has the name of the merchant on it. You've got your Chateau de Macau, mise en bouteille au Chateau. That means it was bottled at the estate. And on the back, there's a little bit of a story here. Tells you who imported it. And this doesn't happen with Bordeaux all the time, but it tells you. You get lucky again by looking at the back of the bottle. It's a red blend. All Bordeaux reds are blends. This one is 60% Cab Franc, 30% Merlot, and 10% Cabernet Sauvignon. And there's a little story on here on the back, and it tells you a lot of the times, and I've read from bottles, it'll tell you what it tastes like, at least according to that. So that is a Bordeaux bottle. I wanted to represent one from California here. You'll see this one, 2022, Ferrari Carano Fume Blanc. So what does that mean? Fume. Fume is a word literally for oak, smoked. So this wine has been oaked. It's an oaked Sauvignon Blanc, which you don't see as much. This one is actually a fantastic wine. And you won't learn much from the bottle, but they just tell you the wine has bright acidity, crisp freshness, blah, blah, blah. And then they tell you served chilled. The ABV is definitely there. Bottled by Ferrari Carano. It tells you they're in Healdsburg, California. I don't know if any of that means anything to you, but it sure would help. And you're going to find it on almost all wine bottles. So let's move along here. We have our next wine. These wines, Chiantis, are another wine that you'll learn a lot. They're all over the place. So you look at this, you got a lot of words here. Chianti, sometimes you'll see Chianti Classico. This is a Chianti Classico Reserva. Sometimes they come from DOC. They come from a DOC, Denominación de Origen Controlada. And then you have the DOC G, which is supposed to be the higher quality. That's kind of the play on words for my wine segment. So this DOC G means Denominación de Origine Controlata e Garantita, which means it's a higher quality. Okay? Guaranteed. And then winemakers will slap a label on here sometimes that you'll see with 93 points by so-and-so. Honestly, that does usually mean something. If somebody is significant in the wine world has slapped a point on it, it's probably a decent wine. None of these is very expensive, by the way. So this is a 2017, and you can, now it's a little longer. This is 7 years old. So this was harvested in 2017, and here we have it. It's still going strong. I've had this one before. It's very good. It's only a $17 bottle of Chianti. And then that little rooster on there tells you that it's from the Chianti region. That's their symbol. So that one, and it tells you the producer, et cetera, et cetera. And the last one to round out this little shopping trip, let's say we went into the store and we found this one. This one says Gruet Reserve Cabernet Franc. Don't worry about the word reserve, but it tells you right on the front. It is a Cabernet Franc. So you can go immediately. You don't have to get, if you want a Cab Franc and you want this one, you can get it. And it's a wine. It tells you where it's from. This one, Gruet, bottles their wines in New Mexico, but they imported these grapes from the Napa Valley. So this is a Cabernet Franc from the Napa Valley. So your bottle tells you everything that you need to know, my friends. And I hope the next time that you go into your wine and spirit shop, you do take a look at the bottle, unless you already know what you want. But if you want to, I consider any wine and spirit shop as a library for me. I go in and people go in and read books in libraries. To me, every bottle of wine is like a book. And there's a little story to be told as you read. Let's call them short wine stories. So I hope the short wine stories that you heard today give you a little bit of background on your wine purchasing. And on that note, got a little thirsty throughout that. Cheers and happy bottle shopping.